Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell, long time no see. I haven't posted a long form video in almost 2 weeks, and I have an explanation for that. So honestly, I've been doing my summer classes. I've been really the track season starts ramping up, and I've been working here and there. So obviously, like it's been, especially like I've had two midterms in the past 2 weeks because it's two condensed courses, so I've had to really focus on that. And I told myself, you know what, I'd rather focus on doing my midterms. I had my midterm this morning, by the way, and just give out a quality video rather than rushing in between midterm season and giving a poor video. So here we are, and as you guys can tell by the title, I'm going to be speaking about if sex offenders slash rapists can be rehabilitated. This video is more so a social commentary. Obviously, some definitions, I did make some research on it, but obviously, like, I'm not an expert. Everything that I will be saying, or most things that I'll be saying, will be opinions. And yeah, like I said, it will be a social commentary, so it will be rooted in my opinions rather than, like professional research. And I've been honestly debating and thinking about this topic for such a long time. Just a little trigger warning. I already said the title, but if you're this far in this video, trigger warning, I will be using some words that may be sensitive for certain people, and I will be addressing sensitive topics. So if you feel like that may be a little bit too much for you, or it triggers something, you also have the choice to click out of this video, and that would be really understandable. Just by the way, I did some new hair. I did my hair. I've never really done blonde like that, so it's a new color, but I love it. It's giving summer. Anyways, so like I said, this topic, I've been thinking about it, and I've been wanting to speak about it, but not more so on a research perspective, more so on a social commentary perspective. Like I mentioned, some definitions and some words and terminologies are researched in what I'm saying. I'm not just bluffing. So the first thing we can start with is what is rape. So I did make research on that because I didn't just want to say things based on assumptions. So, and I wrote things I'll be looking here. So it's an unlawful act, often involving sexual intercourse against one's will. So it's from one individual to the other. So it's sexual intercourse against it often involves sexual intercourse against the victim's will, and it was thought to be motivated by sexual desire. So that at first, that's what the definition was engraved in, but the definition changed around the 20th century, and we saw that it's more from a perspective of dominance, violence, and power as well. And I've seen, just by the way, I've seen some TikTok comments, and I've seen some people say, like, comment on TikTok, like, how can a son rape his dad, or how can a son rape his mom? How can a son rape his parents? And another comment was replying and saying, like, it's not based on sexual attraction, it's based on dominance, and it's based on power. But anyway, that was just a by the way. So yeah, it's about having a pathological power over the victim. Rape can occur between two individuals. So this definition is a definition I got from my research. So it can occur between individuals of the same sex, but it's often male to female. And that's another topic that I won't be addressing in this video, but there's also rape in marriages as well. And rape can either be adults, it can be children, and it can also be male or female. And something else that I wanted to address as well, rape can also be towards animals. It can also be an individual raping animals. I've seen some videos on TikTok where there's cases of men raping dogs, or men raping, raping horses. It's rape. But that's a more complex part of the spectrum. So it's sexual intercourse used as violence or a threat when the victim is unable to give consent because of illness, mental state, intoxication, unconsciousness. These were the definitions when I made my research. These were the definitions listed. So illness, mental state, intoxication, unconsciousness. And I added that it can also just be because the person says no. A no is enough. They don't have to be physically or mentally impaired to not want to get into sexual intercourse. It can also just be somebody refusing to get into sexual intercourse because no is enough, and that's the reason. And the quote-unquote definition that I have here is the penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus with any body part or object, or oral penetration by a sex organ of another person without the consent of the victim. And rape is often explained or excused as the manifestation of racial, ethnic, and class hatred as from stemming from a patriarchal system where women were viewed as the property of men. I also saw, which is also something I won't be addressing, but just saw like rape during the times of war. So it happened usually between men raping women, but there was also cases where, like for example, a group of people would kind of like invade another area or territory, and they would just go on a mass rape violence for several days streak, and they would rape a lot of women, and they would also rape other soldiers, like they would rape other men. So that's something that I that piqued my attention a little bit, that I saw, but I knew I was getting outside of it. And one of the questions that I've seen on social media and that I've just been thinking about is whether rapists can be rehabilitated. And one thing that I did realize is that there's very little research on this topic and whether the rehabilitation techniques or rehabilitation procedures used for rapists work. I've made a bit of research, and obviously I didn't go extensive, but from what I did see is that there's little research to support that, or to support that rehabilitation does work effectively. So a lot of the things I will be saying will be opinions. Yeah, so there's a lot of like I've seen like there's a lot of ones that are just inconclusive, or that just don't have enough research to be able to really state that rapists or sex offenders can be rehabilitated. So what I personally think, I think society does have a tendency to give a pass or a sort of, we'll just let this slide to nice looking men, or men who look like they wouldn't harm anyone, but obviously that's what it takes to really hurt someone. It takes for people to think that you wouldn't do such a thing, for you to be able to have the past to be able to do that thing. And I've seen, I've read about a lot of cases where a lot of men get the pass or get let back into society because they've been monitored and they've been under some good behavior for a couple months or for a little bit of time. But I think we need to put in perspective that the victims don't spend a couple months to heal. It takes years, it takes decades for rape victims, for victims who've been assaulted to be able to come back and be able to heal what they've gone through. Obviously, it's not just physical harm, it's also psychological harm. Like these victims have to undergo extensive practices, rehabilitation to get back, and it's mentally engraved. And I think rehabilitation is, I wouldn't say it's an illusion, but I would say that for me, the rehabilitation practices, it looks like it's prioritizing, I could be wrong, but it looks like for me it's prioritizing the perpetrator over the victim. I don't know. I feel like I don't think they can be rehabilitated. I feel like the extent of going to that extent, reaching that extent of harming someone is just too far gone. You have to cross a first boundary. You have to cross the boundary of the individual refusing to get into sexual intercourse with you. So you have to refuse to know. You have to cross that boundary. Now you have to induce violence to get a power over the victim. And you have to cross several boundaries to be able to inflict such harm over such intimate, personal spaces. And we think that a couple months of program of rehabilitation will be able to help someone. And I've seen a video on TikTok, and it was a woman, and she was basically talking about child offenders, like children sex offenders that have raped their siblings, their parents, their friends, etc. And she was saying that she doesn't think that they can be rehabilitated because within literally a couple days of being let out, they reoffend again. They reoffend again and again and again. And she was also saying that people like that, these children were not able to fathom or see what they did wrong. They couldn't wrap their head around what they did wrong. They didn't understood the gravity of the situation. Obviously, it's children, but she was saying that they couldn't even try to understand the severity of the things they did. And for me, that's really shocking. And from obviously living in an African family, like I do live in an environment where we are really strong on traditional values. And from my personal experience, I can speak over the fact that African family don't bat an eye in front of offenders and rapists. It's completely overlooked. It's completely ignored. The woman is blamed 99% of the time. What were you wearing? Where were you? What did you do to provoke him? The woman is overlooked. There are people within the family, there are uncles within the family, there are men within the family who are rapists and assaulters who keep harming, and it's completely overlooked. Nothing is done. There's no preventative measures, nothing at all. And most of the time, the family members will try to protect that individual, will try to defend that individual. And for me, it's always been so shocking how fast we can overlook somebody who chooses to harm and harm. Okay, y'all, my video cut halfway. It cut when I was talking, I mean, but I didn't have much left to say. I did also just want to add that if a rapist stops reoffending, a sex offender stops reoffending, the question I ask myself is it because they have been rehabilitated, or is it because they just took the choice to not reoffend? And since there isn't any research, and that obviously this video is based on opinions, I just won't have anytime soon the answer to that question. But it's definitely a question that intrigues me. And like I said, in African families, these stories are overlooked. Women, girls, little girls are called liars. Little girls are blamed and accused. It's horrific. But that's honestly what I had to say. It wasn't going to be a very long video. It's just something I wanted to get off my chest and speak about. If you guys have anything to leave in the comments, feel free. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another lifetime. I will try to post. I should be posting within the next few days. It won't be 2 weeks like before. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in another lifetime.